Thank you. We said we had to be really entertaining because we're competing with breakfast, so I'm glad that you guys are all here. Thank you so much. So as Joe said, we cover 5,000 customers. This year we did 5,000 just in the United States. Prior to that, we did it globally, and so we're doing a separate global study in Asia and different parts of, so Asia covers China, India, and we're doing another one in Latin America. So we're separating our study out to really be focused on how we can help our customers globally in a different way. We're also being language specific. So in Europe, we're running the survey in all the different countries in its own language, so we're not trying to do an English version of it. We're actually trying to localize the survey. So for today's purposes, we're only going to talk about the North America information, but if there's anything that you guys need to know, let us know. So obviously, all different income brackets, 25,000 to 500,000 income level. Children, how many children do they have? And then the age bracket, right? So why do we do this study, right? And Joe said that we really, in many cases, a lot of the studies, we focus a lot of internal stuff, right? So we ask our CIOs or we ask our chief marketing officers, but we wanted to ask the consumers. And so every year we actually ask the consumers, how are we doing on how we're servicing them? What are the things that they're looking for when we implement, whether it's technology or process or new products or new services? How are we doing for that, right? And why this matters to you is really how critical it is when you use this in your strategy. So as Joe said, we will provide the data if there are things that you need from numbers perspective, from the ability to take this data and be able to build your own strategy around how to serve your own customers. Let us know how we can help you. So our focus is around personalization. This year, we thought it was critical that no matter what we do, how do we service that customer in a very unique way? Right? We've got loyalty programs. I know many of you, I've talked to many of you. You guys have loyalty programs, you have digital programs, whether it's mobile or e-commerce. But how do you really look at that consumer, and what are the consumers saying when we actually serve them? Right? So from a digital experience, from a store experience, are we consistent? Are we really using loyalty for loyalty? We don't actually talk about buy online from ship from store because this is a consumer facing. They don't know when we ship it from the store. So our survey only runs on pickup in store. And the other part that we really got loud and clear this year was around security and privacy. So 13% of the shoppers make online purchases once a week. Now that number has increased, but if you total up all of these numbers, digital is pretty critical. Getting it right, getting the data right, this clearly says we no longer are at this point where we're going to do 10% of our sales online. It's moving up. And so unless we start improving our digital aspect of how we service our customers, this is really going to change the game. So if you actually look at the first two numbers and you total them up, 43% shop more than 2 to 3 times a month online. This is a bigger number. 55% of the shoppers compare prices with their devices. They really are looking at how they're using their mobile phones. So I'm going to give you a couple of things where on the digital side, what they physically do when they don't see what they want, right? So another big part is 29% of the shoppers are more likely to use location-based services as a reminder. So I know many of you are actually implementing location-based services. They are actually willing to accept it, but in a very specific way. So we're going to talk about data kind of on the back end of this. And how the organizations are collecting data on that consumer to be able to service them, right? They're only willing to share certain kinds of data at certain times. But 29% of the people who we surveyed out of the 5,000 people said, we're willing to accept an offer from a location-based service. That's a really good number. So this is the most critical part, percentages of what areas of digital preferences the consumers were talking about. So when they go on your website, these are the 4 things that influence them moving. If you looked at the numbers on here and we gave them options to pick 3, 60% of the customers said that these are the areas of reason why the consumers go. Now, this is not news, right? I mean, we all know they go for product selection, they go for availability, they go for price, ease of checkout. This is simple stuff, right? But how many websites do you go into which checkout is not easy, right? Or when you go look at product availability, the site says one thing, but when you potentially go into the store to go pick it up, it's not there, right? And so it seems so simple. This is exactly what the consumers want, but our strategies are not focused on it. I know many are trying to focus on Twitter and Facebook and how do you engage the customer, and we're not sure what we're getting for it. But this clearly says customers are posting things out there, and if we're not watching, they're clearly telling you whether they like things or don't like things. 28% have 3 or more posts. These are true bloggers out there, right? Maybe they're being paid, maybe they're not. 26% of them have received responses from the retailers. If they're blogging out there and they're saying, hey, this service is no good, or got this product and the handle fell off of it, we need to be responding to them. 36% of the shoppers are always happy with the response. They're getting a response, 36%, so they're getting good responses. That's, we got some more improvement to do on that one also. So now we've talked about the digital aspect of it, but really the shopper experience, the shoppers, our surveyors are saying they still love going to the store. They love the experience, they love the touching and feeling aspect of it, but there are certain areas that shoppers desire more than anything else when they actually go look at stuff, right? And shoppers are refraining from purchasing if their desired brands are not available. So if our shelves are not filled, we don't actually assess what our products are, they're actually leaving, right? So television and consumer electronics, even though our e-commerce sites are actually moving more products than ever before, they still want to be able to go in and touch it and feel it. So if you're an organization that has end-to-end product lines and you're servicing them, this is one of the other areas. Books and magazines and videos, 19% of them said they actually go in and look, right? And 16% of the beauty and healthcare. Price, as always, critical, getting the price right. This is one of the things that sits at the top where the consumers are saying that, and I don't think that's anything new for all of us. The ability to price match, but this is more than price match. This is the ability for your store associates to be empowered. Today, our store associates are not empowered. They are the ones that are forgotten. We roll out a new technology, we don't train our associates. We roll out a new functionality, they are the last ones to know, right? Our customer goes in and says, I was on the website and I wanted to see this, and they don't know how to use the website. Our associates don't know how to use the website, right? And we're just assuming everybody knows how to use it, but we don't train them. We don't focus on them, right? And so empowering your associates is the biggest aspect of sealing the deal, right? And that's one place that we don't spend our money, right? We're cutting staff, we're cutting training, but this is where the customer goes in, and I can ask a survey right here. How many of you walked into a large retailer and looked for an associate to help you, and how long did it take you to go find that associate? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes? And when you found that associate and you asked them a question, were they able to answer that question? Right? Whether you're looking for a product or you're looking for a price or you're looking for what does this thing do? Getting your associates to be lined up to your strategy of where you're taking your company is so critical. Again, if I went back to the 1920s, this is standard stuff. I'm telling you what we've been doing in retail for 100 years. This is nothing new, but we've lost track of our associates and how we actually focus on them. Improvement of knowledge and products for them via the mobile devices or other technology. So one of the things that our survey does not work on is buy online and ship from store, which many of you guys are potentially working on, right? Because this is a consumer-facing one, the consumer doesn't see that. They don't see that you're shipping it from a store location. So we don't ask those questions, actually. We're really focused on the experience of buy online and pick up in the store. And our consumers, there's 30% of them, do it once per month. So if you're offering it, they're coming. They like it, right? But when we actually service them, 30% of them that are actually using buy online and pick up in store purchase something else in store, right? 65% purchase another item in the store. These are your good consumers. They not only are going to come in and pick up something, but they're also going to potentially buy some more, right? Best customers. And this data is not very different than what you're seeing from other surveys. But these are the consumers telling you this. So legitimately, your consumers are telling you that this is something that they're willing to do. However, we're failing. So they go into the store, they go to pick up something, we're not doing so well. Product's not there, services are not there. The timing of actually the pickup order got screwed up. We're not doing so well from a pickup perspective, right? So long wait lines. I go to a number of different stores, and I actually experiment all this, so I do a lot of buying. In many cases, the customer service desk is where the buy online and pick up in store is. For your holiday season, I highly recommend you move that location. Move it away from the customer service line, because you have people who are doing returns and they're doing other things. In that same line, you've got a lot of people who are maybe unhappy, and you're getting a happy customer coming in to pick up their product, and you're putting them into an unhappy spot potentially. Move the location, right? Have it very customized. Items were not ready for the pickup. So the process in the back end is not working. We trigger to them that says it's ready, but when they get there, it's not ready. So there's something going on in the store that's not working. Customer service associates were confused by the process. So if we actually have implemented it, make sure the people who are physically there know the process very well, right? And as the holiday season picks up, you're going to have more and more associates, because more and more people are coming. They're coming in to pick it up. And the next one is items were either damaged or wrong, right? The key aspect to this, and Joe and I will talk about it, is the inventory has to be correct, right? So if it's not there, the associate can't pick it, right? So the back end has to be correct. So loyalty, it is your secret weapon. So almost every loyalty program started out with a card, and we were collecting some basic information. But we need to get really, really good at knowing our customer. It started with the conversation of personalization. And personalization is so critical in this aspect of it. You will keep those best customers forever if you keep figuring out what do they need over their lifetime, right? So 32% have a loyalty card, right? And they're loyal even when the price is a little higher. They're willing to go to that store, right? Typical loyalty stuff, right? We're doing points and rewards, discounts, status for benefits, special offers based on purchase history and preferences. I can guarantee you, you're all doing it. You got your marketing people, you're analyzing this data, you're figuring it out. However, this is not enough. We are going to the next level of loyalty, and you've got to get the strategy of that loyalty. Our consumers are saying, we're willing to share stuff about you if you're willing to actually service me in a unique way. But if you're just collecting stuff to collect stuff, I'm not willing to share it, right? So the key aspect of this is that customers are willing to also, on the loyalty program, if they're loyal, 49% are willing to promote your store or your service or things that you're promoting, which is kind of cool. 38% of the shoppers are part of 3 or more retailers' loyalty. But the strategy here is so critical, right? So I said, you know, if you have that many people joining a loyalty program, but we're still doing the same old stuff, one of the things that we talk about at Cognizant is really, with our clients, what code halo are you creating for your customer, right? Are you really knowing your customer and creating a halo around there? So if we actually analyze your customers, who are your best customers? Who are the 20% of your best customers? And let's practice on creating a code halo around them. So the last part here is really, really critical. Security and privacy, we actually put in these questions a little bit, primarily because there's been so much issues around security, around credit card security, data breach, around private data. You see it not only in retailers. The government lost all of our information, right, recently. That was like a week ago, where all of the employees' data was hacked, whether you were in a government 401k or you were in a government employment database. All of that information was hacked. So this is big concerns. So the customers are saying that 26% of the security of personal information is one of the top 3 influencers of how they shop. Oh my God, 1 in 4 are saying that they may not shop at your location because if they're concerned with security. 68% say very or extremely concerned about security payment methods, so specific around payments, right? So here's the personal information aspect of it, right? So they're willing to share what we already knew, gender, age, birthday. Collecting this information is really a critical aspect of it, but how we collect it and what they're willing and willing not to do. But they're not willing to share family information, income, address, education. One of the things about the mobile device and the legislation around mobile is that, folks want to go into your contact list. So once they have access to your mobile device, they could have access to a lot of things, right? And the fear is the customers would get totally alienated because they would be giving away all this information without even knowing it. So if you walked into a store and I was part of your contact list, right, and the stores potentially found you in the store and offered you something, they also could offer it to me because I was part of your contact list. That's an issue. Right? So that whole security aspect is really critical, and the legislations that are coming down the pike around it is that something that needs to be paid attention to, especially if you're on the mobile side of it. Shoppers have enormously long memories, and you think that people forget, but when we surveyed this, we asked them specifically retailers' names. It's been almost 2 years since the breach happened, but they are still remembering it. And they're still struggling to bring consumers back in to actually shop due to the security breach. They still feel that probably about 25% of their customers are not coming back. That's a big struggle.
Actually, security is a topic that we've recently been talking about regarding the EMV deadline, and we had an editorial advisory board meeting the other day, yesterday morning. That was a big topic. It switched, however, because a lot of the CIOs said, well, it's not EMV we're focusing on adding other things when we put those new PIN pads in and card readers. And so they're actually switching to better services, but also they're not really thinking of EMV as the way to achieve the security you're talking about. They're looking at point-to-point encryption and tokenization, and they're trying to figure out, how many aspects, how deep, where does tokenization begin and end? And these are actually the things that retailers are thinking about when they think about security.
Yep. And that's a really big thing is that, as you said, EMV is kind of, even if they implement EMV, it's not secure, right? So they have to do encryption and tokenization on the back end to be able to be successful. So proactive communication, if something goes wrong, consumers are expecting us to communicate to them, right? What happened? How did it happen? They really want us to be able to say, what are we doing to fix it? And they didn't feel that when these breaches happened, that they got that. They didn't get proactive. It was only, they thought, because of some sort of a legal aspect of it, and it was spilled out into the media due to other things, but the retailers were not proactive at it. So they really are expecting a proactive aspect to the communication. So back to kind of personalization, right? And there are two areas, if you do anything, and many of you are doing something in all of these areas, this is really about the consumer giving us information, right? Having our strategy focused around consumers is really critical. But there are two areas that, if you take away anything out of this discussion, focus on that store associate. They're so critical to your digital strategy. They're the last ones to be thought of as part of digital because they're part of the store. And we have built our silos, so there's store and store operations. And then there is digital, and digital is split up also, mobile, e-commerce, other ways of doing things, right? So each one of those teams are doing something different. But we're forgetting about the person who is physically in front of the customer when the customer walks in, and it's a store associate. And they're critical to your digital strategy, so keep them in mind as you're doing some rollouts. And the last part is the loyalty. Having a true loyalty strategy to develop around what makes that customer unique. What's the halo around your 20% of your best customers? Is that the focus market? If you change your product, if you change your strategy, if you change your pricing, what impacts that quote halo for those 20%, the ones that buy the most from you, right? figuring out that, and then building a loyalty strategy in a tier form. Don't just focus on that 20% of the best buyers. How are you going to achieve the next 20%, right? And really looking at that data. So 2 key takeaways out of our survey.
And again, to reiterate, this is a study that this is the first look at the collected data. We have so much more, as Meena said, lots of different ways to look at that data. We have one way coming out. Go to our website, it'll be available. And then after that, we have spin-off projects because there's so much good data that we tie it to technologies. We have special reports. We have different cuts as how we look at that. And by the way, if you notice, we didn't mention the word omnichannel. That's not really a part of this study because consumers don't look at omnichannel. Consumers didn't even know what the word meant. So when we're talking about customer preferences, it's not about omnichannel. It's about customer preferences and what they want.
Right, and then if you're thinking, how do I use this to help me solve my problem? We typically help our clients by they have some sort of a e-commerce site, some sort of a digital strategy. It's already on their way. They're saying, but what's next? We actually work on a future way of looking at all of these digital options, and we have a 3D version of our futuristic view of that. But then we take this data and make it reality. And we also run a special one for that client. So we run another survey with their customers, right? Their loyal customers or non-loyal customers. We do a segment of their own, and we overlay it with this. And then we help them actually figure out where do they want to go from a strategy perspective. What's their 12-month, 18-month, 24-month plan? And that's all you can plan, right? If you plan beyond like 18 months, I think it's a little too much, right? But what are they doing to actually service their customer, right? And how do they actually build a strategy, a tactical strategy, to really define what they're going to get back from it? And from that, we actually run a business case to actually get financial numbers so that they can take to their board to prove out their information. So,
thank you very much.
Thanks so much.